and welcome to the Q&A edition of the Cosmetics Business Podcast. I'm Sarah Parsons.
And I'm Julia Wray. Hey Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. We've just released the latest issue of Pure Beauty.
Fantastic. What can we expect from it?
Well, it's our shortlist edition, our finest edition.
The
Beast. It is a hard work, but it's really worth it.
Guys, you're going to love it. There are so many fantastic brands that entered this year and you'll get to see each and every one of them.
Absolutely. There's about 300 products in it and yeah, I know.
Pity us. We had to write these all out, but they are worth it.
Yes, and we had the horrible job of sampling them all and picking them.
I know. Poor us. Pity us.
How about you? How was your week?
Very good. I started off the week by launching into the Selena Gomez billionaire story, Rare Beauty has propelled her into billionairedom. And it couldn't happen to a nicer person from what I can gather. The brand is a really good brand. Everyone seems to love it. It's got a huge following online, obviously. Influencer favourite, and 1% of the sales go towards the Rare Beauty Trust for helping mental health and underserved communities as well. It's a really great brand.
It is such a wholesome brand.
It's very wholesome. Yeah, it looks wholesome.
Shall we go into our first question?
Absolutely, let's.
So this question came from Ala Mustafa, and they ask, where do trends come from? And could there be a future possibility of copywriting trends?
Oh, that is an interesting one. I mean, let's break this down, right? Where do trends come from? Where don't they come from?
Yeah.
For starters, you have the classic things, which have been what trend spotters have been looking at for decades. So things like runway looks. This is why we always do roundups for key beauty events. Obviously, everything's happening with all the weeks at the moment in autumn. So street style youth culture, bands, gigs, festivals. And this has always been the case. So you've got like mods, punks, all of the, new romantics. I'm not going to list every single music genre, but essentially, and it's happening now. Obviously, Brat Summer,
Absolutely.
Charlie XCX.
Sabrina Carpenter,
absolutely. And then you have kind of overlap all of these. So obviously earlier on in the year, we spoke about that amazing Margera runway whereby everyone looked like a kind of porcelain glazed doll. That vibe, you can see it very much with Chapel Roan, The Last Dinner Party, that kind of almost like uber coquette, slightly, or what do we call it before Regency, that kind of period, 1700s. Marie Antoinette. Antoinette Court, there you go. But that kind of look, and they all scream Galliano for Margera. So you can see all these things interacting. Celebrities, obviously, you mentioned Sabrina Carpenter, Hailey Bieber is also inescapable. So you've got those, but then of course the world has changed and we've got the new ones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then trends also come from a lot of the non-glamorous side of things. It comes from a lot of the big, actually behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So some of the big macro trends come from actually what's happening with different governments. So
we always forget that those things are underpinning everything that we see, right?
Absolutely. So the first one that immediately springs to mind is like K-beauty and how that's suddenly everywhere in the West. And that did not come because some beauty editor went on holiday to Seoul and came back with a load of products. So I was like, hey guys, love this. No, that came about because the Korean government was like, well, we have about 2,000 brands in this country, which is a very small country. We need to export them and to make big business from it. And that's what they did. And so now the Korean export market of cosmetics was worth $4 billion this year.
Yeah, you invest and you reap the good rewards.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are also announced plans to develop technologies related to bespoke cosmetics, personalised skin diagnosis and programs. So we should really keep our eyes peeled for those.
So where the investment is happening by which governments?
Absolutely. And yeah, we're seeing that with France as well. There's a reason why, apart from the fact that it's home to like L'Oreal, LVMH and things like that, there's a reason why French pharmacy products everywhere, why French girl beauty is such a thing. And that's because different trade bodies work with different international partners to promote products.
Absolutely. You have collectives that are regional, like Grass, for example. And yeah, there's just so much going on behind the scenes of that market.
And another area of where trends come from is what I like to call Newton's third law.
Explain Newton's third law. For those, I'm not a scientist. many, many years ago. What is Newton's third law?
And scientists are probably like listening to this, but oh my God, this is the complete wrong application.
This is the opposite of science.
Yeah, well,
sorry guys.
Well, Newton's third law is that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And so what I mean by that is that you just don't like what your parents did. You don't like what the generation before you did. So I think 90s and 2000s was very matte. And then 2010s, even now, is still gloss. So it's like swinging of the pendulum backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And so it might come not as quick as what you hope for. Sometimes you're betting on that. You might be a bit too early, but it's very much in that way.
Well, something that I've been seeing recently, obviously we're having, as we're recording this, New York Fashion Week happened relatively recently, and some of the catwalk looks by MAC had some really interesting takes on the eyebrows. So we're talking about eyebrows either blanked out or blanked out and then drawn back on very thinly, which of course is a massive...
That makes my skin shudder.
Me too. You know, I survived the 90s. I did things to my eyebrows that they've never recovered from, PTSD for my eyebrows. And my mum was very much the same in the 70s. And I remember she said, don't do anything to your eyebrows. Don't ever pluck them. Did I listen?
Mm-mm.
Did I help? Because she was telling me to do it.
Yeah.
So we do see that. And I don't know whether this will take off mainstream. I'm not seeing it yet, but fashion is pushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of a Rihanna Vogue cover a few years ago.
Yes, and everybody was talking about thin brows being back.
Yeah.
Never materialised within the wider populace, but we were saying that about flared and low-rise jeans. Never again, never again. And what are we seeing all over the place? So thin brows might come back.
Exactly. And then the last place where trends do come from is social media these days. So in terms
Inescapable.
Inescapable. And then the trend cycle that we talked about and this Newton's third law is this idea that the trend cycle seems to be increasing because of social media. And this is something that I do find that lots of brands struggle with, is to differentiate between what is actually a real social media trend and what is content for content's sake.
I think what we're seeing a lot of now is you have trends which grow and then they may evolve into something else. But those are the kind of trends where you're like, okay, this is a semi-long-lived thing. We can see this happening. Whereas what you're getting so much of is spikes. So, for example, even now, very demure, very mindful,
oh, yes, of course.
is souring like milk. No offense to the content creator, Jules, who came up with it, but it's being hugely overused. We're getting it in emails from PRs. We've seen it everywhere on social media. It is now slowly dying, and by the time you listen to this podcast, it will probably have croaked its last. Similar thing with things like Gangnam Style. I remember this years ago.
Gangnam Style.
Do you remember? Yeah, she's doing the dance, guys.
Sorry.
And you probably are too now, right? So what was really interesting about that was one of the big supermarkets. I can't remember which one, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, whatever. I'm sure if you remember it, you can let us know. But what it did was, and it's a very sweet idea, was it used people's social media videos, got people to send their videos in from the prior year Christmas and used it for that year Christmas marketing. But of course, what everyone was doing the Christmas before was Gangnam Style. So it felt so dated because it had channeled what was massive a year ago, because it was all over the shop.
Yeah.
So that's how, and that was a year cycle. We are seeing these things spike and then go down and feel dated and passé in weeks.
It's a bit like Barbie. Like,
Absolutely.
if you see anyone wear bright pink now, you think, oh, that was so last year.
I know. I mean, I'm starting to see people wearing that really acid green and going, really very summer. We're coming into autumn.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is definitely. And then that makes it difficult for us. So as an industry, okay, what do you hop on with regards to marketing? What do you hop on with regards to new product development, the longer, more organic ones, and ones that might have like longer traction and morph into other things, and that your products can still market on and be used on? And then finally, what do you just let go of? I personally, demure and mindful, if I was a PR, I wouldn't be sending stuff out on that.
No, just a noise journalist. I hate it.
Because by the time you're doing it, everyone else is doing it. And so, yeah, there's a tip, guys.
Yeah.
we see this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
viral.
so.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, okay, you need strategies for each of those tiers of social upswell.
Yeah. And my biggest advice for anyone who actually wants to know what a social media trend is, get off social media.
Yeah.
Like go to a coffee shop, particularly live in a big city, and look at what people are wearing. And you'll find that actually they're a lot less expressionistic and individualistic than what social media will have you believe. And there's a reason why things like Clean Girl is doing so well and why Blush is doing so well is because whilst, yes, it's vibrant pink, but it's actually very approachable. It's not an intimidating. It's not like your graphic eyeliners and the bold hair and everything.
Well, you need things to be accessible. I don't mean financially because, Clean Girl, that was part of that kind of expensive trend, a glossy trend. But it's accessible in terms of most people look good in an adoption of that look, either makeup-wise or fashion-wise or whatever it might be. Most people actually look really good in that. Festival beauty, outside of Burning Man, you're going to look like nothing on earth. People will be turning around for all the wrong reasons. So and don't get me wrong, I do love individuality and expression and all that kind of stuff. But generally, when it comes to trends as opposed to one-offs, yeah.
So here's another question that we got come in, and it is what do you think about LED therapy? And that came from JOTAQ on Instagram. Thank you, JOTAQ. Hi, JOTAQ. Thank you very much. So yeah, Julia, what do you think about LED therapy?
All right, full disclosure, never tried it. Never tried it in a professional setting and never tried it at home. How about you?
I've tried it. It's normally now it's tacked on at the end of like a longer, not like a relaxing facial, but more like a performance
So it's
facial.
part of a ritual almost.
Well, it's more like when you go to a dermatologist or when you go to a clinic and they use lasers and things on your face. They use LED on the end normally to calm your skin after what's done that.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I have had that. I do have one of those LED masks that you kind of look a little bit like Hannibal Lecter in.
How often do you have to use that?
You're supposed to use it. You start it once a week and then you build up. And then the other one is a wand. So it's a vibrating wand with a red LED and you massage it over your face. And I use them, but they're kind of gathering dust because they take a lot of commitment.
I have to admit, when it comes to devices, which is terrible to admit this, I'm a lazy charger.
Okay, yeah.
I have so many chargers. I forget which one belongs to what. And when it runs out, I'm like, I'll charge it when I have a moment. Do I do it? I never do it. I'm always charging my phone or my Kindle or something else. So yeah, I'm not great with devices, which is why I don't have. The other reason I don't have one is so academically, LED face masks from science side, they use red and near infrared light emitting dyes to target various skin conditions. None of those are ones that I really have suffered from. So I had light acne when I was younger. It works apparently good on acne, but that was put under control by the pill, like for so many women. Dark spots I've never had. Eczema I haven't had. Rosacea I haven't had. I've been really lucky, actually. Looking back at the roster, right?
Well, you do have beautiful skin.
Thank you very much. But I am obviously... nobody is coming out of this looking any younger, so it's apparently very good for fine lines and wrinkles. And so potentially it is something I would look to do personally as I get a little bit older and I think, what do I want to do? What's my strategy for looking as fresh as I possibly can and as good as I possibly can? What I do think is interesting about the market, you mentioned that you had a little targeted one, is we are seeing, I think, quite a lot of entry-level launches, accessible, targeted, at home. Style Pro, for example, last year bought out some facial area targeted at LED products. Quite affordable. There's an under eye one. It's not even £40. So they're not gonna burn a hole in your pocket if you're trying it out. If you're giving it a bash, they're not going to do that. Having said that, they have bought out a full face mask now, very very recently. So potentially they've realised that the demand is for if people are going to do it, they're going to spend that money on the product.
They're not necessarily always an investment in terms of your money, but they are an investment in terms of your time. Because it's not something you get immediate results from. It's not even something you get results from like in a couple of weeks. It does take you, it's the long game with LED. And it's whether consumers are willing to bet on that.
Have you personally found good results?
No, but I also don't commit long enough.
There you go.
I'm completely honest.
Long game, guys.
It really is. And also, I think in terms of like, for brands, there is an opportunity with LED therapy. Yes, they're great social media moments. You can get your branding on them and you can make them look very cool. They can help, potentially go viral if you get the
right person wearing it in the right way.
Exactly.
Something funny, accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is an element of like transparency that's lacking there, because LED therapy only has benefits if it has a certain right wavelength and power. So there's more research that needs to be done. So if you're willing to invest in that research, I think you could really stand out from the crowd. Like LED therapy actually goes back quite a long way, like since the 90s. And I believe it was NASA who used LED lights to help grow potatoes in space.
It's always NASA. Growing things in space.
But the interesting thing, I just love this idea of like astronaut farmers, and they've got like wounds on their hands, and it turns out the LED light that they were using was helping heal the wounds on the back of their hands.
These are how discoveries, I mean, it's not exactly penicillin, but it's close, these accidents, happy accidents. So yeah, and here we are benefiting from it,
exactly.
20 years later.
Yeah, and the research samples are still really small. So if you are willing to invest in it, I think there's great opportunity for that.
Absolutely. I would be very interested to know how claims are substantiated, the tests that go into these kind of products. So if you work in that area, do get in touch with us and let us know. Speaking
about claims, I actually just realised we missed the second half of the trends question.
Oh my goodness.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Allah, we apologise.
But I think we'll be able to be quite short and sweet on this one.
Yeah.
The follow-up to Allah's question was, could there be a future possibility on copywriting trends? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm also going to say no. So essentially, copyright law, ladies and gentlemen, buckle in, this is going to be fun. Copyright, it doesn't protect facts, ideas, systems, methods of operation, names, titles, slogans, or short phrases. And ideas are not protected unless they are fixed in a tangible medium. So essentially, if you shared an idea for an invention with somebody without writing it down and recording it, that could result in a loss of IP rights. But beyond that, not really.
No.
A trend to me, it's in the ideas category, isn't it?
And you want a trend to go viral, you want people to discuss a trend. That's the whole point of a trend.
You don't want to sit in it like a chicken hatching an egg.
No, absolutely.
You shall not pass. Yeah, so it goes. I'd say it's antithetical to what a trend is. And we mentioned a bit earlier, demure and mindful. That was Jules LeBron was the creator, whose name I was trying to remember earlier, the content creator. And interestingly, somebody who's not Jules tried to copyright Very Demure, Very Mindful. And it's a guy in Washington State called Jefferson Bates. I don't believe he's successful. Shame on you, Jefferson, for hopping on this particular content creator's well-earned fame. And I don't think it will ever happen.
No, I mean, you get the lines that are blurred. So, for example, the content of a video can technically be copyrighted.
Yeah, but there's some blur. Things that feed into trends can be copyrighted.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, you want a trend for lots of people to embrace it. Like, could you imagine if Chanel copyrighted Little Black Dress?
I would be sued every time I go out for a night.
Exactly.
So Givenchy would hate that as well, given the name of their perfume,
they
right?
Really would. That's so true. Oh, so is that us done?
Yes.
So that was fun. There were some great questions there. Do keep them coming in, the more the merrier.
Absolutely. Keep those questions coming in. Send us a message on the normal podcast platforms, social media, or our email, which is cosmetics@hvcimedia.com.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
In the meantime, stay up to date with the latest beauty news, trends, and analysis by subscribing to cosmeticsbusiness.com.